Hello everybody, welcome back. Carl again. Today we start under the aquarium for a tutorial on how I do my sump slash refugium lights. So as you can see, this is about 8-gallon aquarium full of Chaeto slash Caulerpa. I put a little bit of both in there. Actually, I think the Chaeto has outcompeted the Caulerpa, so I'm pretty sure it's just Chaeto now. Anyhow, it's a custom built aquarium out of a 20-gallon tank, and I made it to fit in this specific spot. And as you can see, I have two 10-watt LED floodlights that I'm using to light it. One red and one white. And as you can see there's the red. And if we pan over, you can see the white. So just real quick, the water comes down on this tube here from the overflow in the aquarium. It tees off, runs down into the Chaeto Morpha tank, and then it drains back through, passes the skimmer, and it goes right into the side here, which is the return pump to go back up. The other part of that comes in and runs through my filter sock. And then this little bucket here I just use, it's a little Tupperware container I'm just using to keep the splashing down. So, of course, the water from the Chaeto tank here bypasses the skimmer in hopes that the copepods and amphipods don't get skimmed out and they can actually get back into the aquarium. So I'm going to take you into the workshop and I'm going to show you how I made these LED floodlights. Stay tuned. Okay, so the first thing I did was I went on eBay and I got a 10-watt LED floodlight. Now, for me, the important thing is that this runs off of 85 to 265 volts AC, so basically my line voltage, and that it's a waterproof enclosure, as well as it has this deflecting shield. So these are about $6 to $8 on eBay, depending upon where you get them. And I got this one, I think it was like $7.99, came from California, actually showed up to my house in Maryland in 3 days, so pretty quickly. The color of the LED doesn't make a difference, so don't worry about that, and I'll show you why in a second. So here is what it looks like. As you can see, it has a nice metal reflector, has a waterproof housing, and this little cheap flex cord. Then what you want to do is go on eBay and find yourself some good 10-watt LEDs. Well, maybe not good, but better 10-watt LEDs. So here it is. You can see this is a one-piece 10-watt high-power bright LED. So I bought this one, which is basically it's a 10K white. And then this one, which is a 620 to 630 nanometer red. So that was the red one you saw, and then this is the white one you saw. Now I'm going to up the ante a little bit, because since I've had my algae turf scrubber, I noticed that a couple pieces of the Chaeto Morpha algae get into the tank, and they do really well. And they have white, red, and blue LEDs. Now they're 3-watt LEDs, these are 10 watts. So I have bought a 10-watt royal blue LED. So I'm going to have, in the Refugium, I'm going to have, this light will become blue. So I have a white, a blue, and a red. And hopefully that'll give me the full spectrum that I need so that I can grow algae effectively. So what I'm going to simply do is get rid of this flex cord, and I'm going to put a longer plug on it. And then I'm going to take this white LED out, and I'm going to put this blue one in. So that's it. So stay tuned while I get set up. I have the soldering iron back here heated up, and we're going to get going. So after a couple seconds with the screwdriver, you can see the screws come out. Just to note, the longer screws go in the top, and the shorter screws go in the bottom. So we'll just set all this right to the side as to not to damage it. And then you can see there is 4 screws here. We'll pull these screws out. So here you can see the LED. I actually have a good amount of heat sink of the glop on there. And also you can see the black and the red. And surprisingly, this one actually has 4 screws. A lot of them just have 2 screws on it for some reason. So we'll pull these out. I'm going to leave 1 screw in so that I can desolder these. So of course there's the red. And if you're having trouble flowing the solder, you can always flow a little bit of a fresh solder on them. And then we'll just take a little spudger here and just pop that off. Of course, the goo is going to be everywhere, as you can see on the back. Now what I'm going to do is actually clean all of this off and use some fresh goo on my new one. I'm doing all this work, I might as well make sure I do it right. So we'll just scrape a lot of this off. Let me just wipe this off. And we'll take a little bit of a flux remover, which is basically acetone alcohol mix. And we'll just clean this area. Alright, so now we're going to grab the LED. And we are going to scrub the back of that one too with a clean spot of the paper towel. Just want to get all the fingerprints and whatnot off. Now, importantly here, you can see that it's marked negative and then positive. So positive is the red, black is the negative. Yes, I know you probably already know that, but just in case you don't. Alright, so I have some heatsink goop. Now here's how I do mine. I just put a little dot on the back. Some people just leave it like that. I like to take an old credit card thingy that I've cut up, and I just kind of spread it out and make sure that I have even coverage. You do it however you feel comfortable. I like doing it this way, that way I know if I have enough or if I need a little bit more. If you don't have any heatsink compound, you could always just leave what was there. So I want to make sure I put the black towards the bottom, so we'll just slide that in there. Now this one came with a nice like protective cover, so I'm just going to leave that on for now, as to not to damage the LED. And when I got it in the mail, of course, because it comes from China, who knows where, I went ahead and tested it out just to make sure that it works. Just peel this off so I can get the screws in there. Now before you tighten the screws all the way down, make sure you get all 4 of them in there, so as to make sure it's properly aligned. And then once you get all 4, you can go back and tighten them down in a star pattern. Okay, so now we're ready to just solder our connections on there. Just clean these off. I got a lot of junk on them. And I think what I'm going to do is just re-strip these. There are plenty of wire length in here, just so I know I have a good fresh connection. And we're ready to solder these up. I'm going to go ahead and tin the ends. Alright, and there we go. So before I go too far, I'm just going to go ahead and test wire this real quick, just to make sure that my LED has a good connection. So I don't want to go this far and then put it all back together and realize I've messed something up. Okay, so now that I have that done, what I'm going to do is just put this piece back together here. Again, put all 4 screws in before you tighten them down. Also, try not to touch the silver piece in the center here. That's where the light is going to reflect. You don't want fingerprints to smudge your surface and then ruin the efficiency of it. I mean, it is just a piece of tin after all, but it is certainly better than nothing. So now we can bring our glass back out. Make sure that our rubber seal is still on there. We'll flip that right in its place, and we'll put the longer screws in. So we're going to get these screws off. Now, we're going to have to loosen this nut, which was not even tight. So we'll just loosen this by hand. Pull that off. And then pull this little rubber washer out. So what I'm going to do is just set these on here on my new flex before I forget. You can see there is the LED driver, and it's actually a good size for the 10 watt. Oh, and look at that. It has a nice ground connection. So it's not just jammed in somewhere. It's actually got a really nice ground. So we'll pull that out. Look, it's even got a dab of silicone to try to keep some of the water out. So this is actually a really nice light. Unfortunately, it's going to make our job a little harder, because unfortunately all this silicone's got to come out so I can get to the daggone thing. Seems like a decent flex cord. It's just obviously too short. I mean, it's like about 8 inches long. It's just not going to work. Now, before we move on to wiring, let's talk about electrical safety. So here in the United States, we use a 3-prong grounded outlet. This big prong here in the middle is ground. Ground reverts to the green wire. Live is the black wire and neutral is the white wire. Please make sure you wire it up with a proper ground connection so that if something goes wrong, it does not kill you. Okay, so what I did was I grabbed a little spade ring terminal here for the ground wire. I'm just going to crimp this on so that I can use that place again. So you can make whatever kind of connection you feel comfortable with. Particularly in this situation, I like to just lay the wires flat against each other and then twist them around themselves. That makes a nice even connection, and then take some solder, and this is what actually holds the wire together. Just give it a couple seconds to cool, and then we can slide the heat shrink tubing right over top. Now I'll just take a lighter here and shrink it down. Now, because it is high voltage, I like to take a little piece of this electrical tape here and just wrap each connection individually, just so I know that I have another layer of protection. So I have the heat shrink, then I'll have the electrical tape, and then I also have the ground. So if for some reason this hot wire was to touch any part of this light case, it's just going to ground itself out and trip the breaker. Alright, so we'll just slide that in. Make sure you leave a little bit of black insulation on the inside. We'll pull up our sealing washer here. So you can see I have a little bit of the black sleeving, and then my sealing washer, and then we'll just slide the nut on up. Alright, and now we'll slide the ground screw back on there. You know, alternatively, you could have just used the existing screw or wire that was there and done the same thing, soldered them in. But that's okay, I have a nice set of ring terminals. I'll just make my own. So we'll just check that this gasket is where it's supposed to be. And then we'll slide the screws in. So what I really like about these particular floodlights is that they come with this bracket, and this bracket you can unbolt, and then it allows you easy access to the screw hole so you can mount wherever you want in your aquarium, then put it back together. And you can see it has this nice kind of tilting feature. And what I'm going to do is mount mine on the sides. So I had the red light sitting here with the aquarium in the middle. The white light was facing this way, and I'm going to put the blue light on this side facing straight down. Hold on one sec while I get cleaned up. We'll get the power meter out and we'll give it a measure. Okay, so I got the light all done. Let's look at the kilowatt meter and see what we're actually running. So we'll turn it on here. You see I'm running a 121.5 volts, and we'll just push it to watts. I'll plug the light in. So as you can see, there's the blue. And let's see, you can see we're running at about 3.3 watts. So not the 10 watts like they claim. 0.05 amps, 3.3 watts, 6.3 volt amps, power factor of 0.50. So anyhow, not 10 watts, but this is typical. They tend to run these at about half the rated power. That really gives you longer LED life. And let me just turn this. This light is pretty bright for being the blue light that it is. So nevertheless, let me get set up. I'm going to take the bracket off and get it screwed up in the aquarium, and I'll be right back with you. Alright everybody, well, here's the finished product. Sorry there's no video of me actually installing the light. As you can see, there isn't much room in there, and so there just isn't a place to put the camera without it falling in the fish tank. So anyhow, I just screwed it in with 2 drywall screws into the 2x4 stud, and then attached the 3/8 bolts with the lock washer in there. And then I ran it to the back where I have a cord that runs to my aquarium controller that'll control those 3 LEDs. So there it is. Let me just turn the regular work lights out here. See, that's what it looks like. I know it's kind of hard to pick up, but the white is pretty bright and very overpowering. But you do see the red hue, and I'm hoping that the blue really helps out. I will say, when I added the additional red light, was that originally I had the 100-watt spiral compact fluorescent bulb, and that worked for a while. However, I seem to go through those about once every 3 months. They just got loaded with the saltcrete, and then they would fail. I then went with one 10-watt LED. Then I added the second red one, and I really noticed a huge growth in the Chaeto. Now I'm adding the blue, and hopefully that'll work. I have it kind of angled high because I'm trying to clear that white PVC pipe. Unfortunately, I thought it was a great idea when I put it in, but the valve isn't really necessary, and I probably could shorten it up and let it go into the far corner of the aquarium, but maybe for another day. The Chaeto tank's doing really well, and I hate to mess with it at this point. So thanks again, guys. I appreciate taking your time to watch the video. Please do hit the thumbs up button at the bottom. It really means a lot. If you have any comments or suggestions for me or anybody else, please post them down below so that everybody can benefit. Thanks again. Till the next video.